In their time, Volkswagen have made some legendary cars. The Beetle, even though it has a bit of a sketchy past and the 21st century resurrection wasn't all that great. The Golf GTI, which 40 years later is still providing lots of driving fun. And this car. The microbus, originally the choice of surfers and hippies, is now a little bit more upmarket. Back then, the VW bus was the easiest way to cram all your stuff and all your mates into one place to get from one music festival to the next. These days, it's still about space and practicality, but there is a lot more luxury and a lot more tech involved in the drive. And the drive itself will now most likely be from one music recital to the next. I'd imagine that designing a microbus must be an incredibly difficult task because at its core it is a utility vehicle, but it still has to be styled to be appealing and the drive has to be engineered to be enjoyable on an everyday basis. And in a car this size that can't be easy. And then even though you've got a decent amount of interior space, it still has to be packaged to be ergonomic and comfortable. But VW has been designing and building these things for the last 6 decades, so they have some idea on how to achieve all of that. What started as a basic transport has evolved into variants based on the same idea. For pure work needs, there's a panel van and a crew bus. Then there's the Combi, which is a little more on the comfort side. Topping the pile is the Caravelle, which is what we're driving. From a styling point of view, they all have something in common though. The original VW bus was basically a box with 4 wheels and lights at each corner. Over the decades, though, things have evolved, but not by much. And I think that's because when creating a car like this with the requirements that it has, your design options are fairly limited. What the Caravelle has is a bit of chrome, a lot of glass, and on this top-of-the-range version, LED lights with a distinguishing daytime pattern. Besides that, there really isn't much to mention when it comes to specifics. Is it a good-looking thing? For a box with 4 wheels and lights at each corner, I guess so. Is it as striking as a Mercedes-Benz V-Class, which costs about the same and does the same job? Not really, no. Powering our test car is the 132 kilowatt, 400 newton meter 2-litre twin-turbo diesel, linked to a 7-speed auto gearbox and all-wheel drive. And while it sounds very familiar to the setup VW dropped into their Amarok Bucky, it is very different. For starters, the gearbox is a dual-clutch setup as opposed to the Amarok's automatic, so you get smoother shifts. The power delivery is a little bit laggy from pull-off, but once you're up and running, it's actually quite fine. I wouldn't say it's fun to drive, but it's certainly not unpleasant, and it is a lot easier than you might expect. The best thing about the drive is the ride setup, smooth and quiet with confident all-wheel drive handling and a turning circle that's smaller than the one you get in a BMW 5 Series. As far as everyday use goes, the Caravelle is not too different to an SUV, and at the price, it's as comfortable too. At just under 5 meters long and 2 meters tall, there are some things you have to get used to, parking procedures being the main one. The chances of you parking correctly the first time, every time, are slim, even with the standard park distance control. And then because of the interior space, some of the controls are a little further away than you might expect. So even with my very upright, very forward seating position, it is a bit of a stretch to interact with the touchscreen. And then the handbrake is all the way down there. And to add to that point, I'm a little disappointed that the 860,000 Rand asking price doesn't include an electronic park brake. Perhaps all those little considerations while you're behind the wheel go to show that this car isn't built for the driver. It's built for the people in the back. There's no doubt that the rear of the Caravelle is what this car is about, and in this Highline version there is a lot going on. Independent rear seats that rotate, a telescopic table that also rotates, independent climate control, and, if the mood takes you, a bed. Not a very big one, but still, how cool is that? The rear is also highly configurable, with the option to move all the seats forward or back, as well as the ability to remove the table completely. There were some complaints from the rear that the individual seats don't offer much in the way of lateral support, but considering the talent of the setup as a whole, that is a minor issue. And every bit of it, in the back and the front, is finished in leather and other great materials. As far as driver toys go, there isn't much that isn't in here. Sat-nav, Bluetooth, electric heated seats with memory, cruise control. The only option that would finish things off is a sunroof, if you like that kind of thing. Space is a given, there's a lot of it, and because of those movable seats, finding a balance between people space and luggage space is fairly easy. To be honest, I haven't enjoyed my time with the Caravelle as much as I thought I would. And not because it's a horrible drive, because it isn't. But I do think that over 6 decades of evolving and trying to find the perfect balance between people carrying and driver enjoyment, it's lost a bit of character. And I don't think that in 30 years' time, people will love this Caravelle as much as people love 30-year-old ones now. That said, the space, the spec and the drive are all top-notch, and it's still an excellent choice in its class. The twin-turbo diesel is initially a little laggy, but once you're on the move, it works well with the 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox to deliver effortless driving. The Caravelle's ride setup is particularly good. In its quest to become the perfect people-carrying solution, the Caravelle has lost a little character, but it still has the space and versatility needed. And on top of that, it is one of the classiest choices in its segment.